Hey everybody, CVH here, and today we're doing another Budget-ify video. If you don't know what these are, what I'm doing in the Budget-ify series is taking established deck lists that you might see on the ladder frequently, and making them easier to create for those of you just starting out and building your collection in Legends by removing all of the epics and legendary cards, as well as cards from the Madhouse collection and Fall of the Dark Brotherhood and monthly reward cards. With the Madhouse and the Fall of the Dark Brotherhood, they're expansions you have to get with gold or real money before you can soul summon the cards in them, but with the core set in Heroes of Skyrim, you don't have to do that. You can just make those cards even if you don't already have any part of the expansion. And I'll be replacing the cards we're taking out with commons and rares from the collections that I just mentioned, the core set in Heroes of Skyrim. So you might notice that we're also looking at Aggro Battlemage today, a deck that I already did in a Budget-ify video a few months back. I wanted to go back around and revisit a few of these because Heroes of Skyrim has released and given many of these decks some new budget-friendly tools, and definitely this deck has benefited from the expansion as well. So without going too much in depth into the general idea of the deck, it is very, very basic, just a really aggressive deck that wants to get on the board early and hit the opponents a bunch and take advantage of the tons of prophecies. You usually see at least 25 prophecies in this kind of deck. Those will really benefit you in other aggressive matchups such as the mirror match or against mid-range decks, because they'll be trying to put you on a clock as well, and then you just get a bunch of free creatures that you then use to continue hitting your opponent with. So without talking too much more about the deck's general strategy, I want to go through and highlight a couple of the cards from Heroes of Skyrim that I was using. This is my last version of the deck that I played on the ladder, so pretty close to what you might see an optimal version looking like. So from Heroes of Skyrim, we have 3 copies of Circle Initiate, a fantastic common. Like I mentioned, this is an aggressive deck that wants to play a bunch of prophecies, and this is a great aggressive prophecy to play, giving us a fantastic body on a 2-cost 4/3 when you're breaking those runes, and you'll be doing that really frequently with this deck, I'll tell you. We also got Mystic Dragon in Heroes of Skyrim, which is another great aggressive prophecy, fine to play from your hand, and an amazing amount of stats to get for free from a prophecy. And at the top of our curve, we have Encano, which is one of the cards we'll be removing because it is a legendary. Now, you can get Encano from the pre-built deck that has its name. It's probably a good idea. The vast majority of intelligence decks currently do use Encano, but for the purposes of this video, we will be having to remove it. So let's get into some replacements. I'm going to actually start with the Encano because we have a pretty easy 1-for-1 swap, very different cards, but I will be taking the spot left by the Encano to put in a 3rd copy of Sharpshooter's Scout, which is just a pretty high utility prophecy. We were only playing 2, and that was a space concern for me in my version, but since we have the space now available to us thanks to the one of Encano leaving us, we can just play 3 of those pretty easily. Now, all of our 2-drops seem to be in order with the Budget-ify trend, except for Protector of the Innocent, which we unfortunately can't play, because it does come from the Fall of the Dark Brotherhood. So a fine card for the deck, but we will have to replace it here. And what I'm going to be using is none other than Wardcrafter, which is an amazing, amazing 2-cost card that the only real downside to it is that it's not a prophecy, but you will see it in a lot of these decks regardless of that fact, because it keeps your things sticky on the board, makes them hard to kill, and the harder your things are to kill, the more you get to hit your opponent with them. Now, the Earthbone Spinners have to leave us next, and I'm actually not that sad about it this time because we got a really good replacement, I think, that I was actually testing over Earthbone Spinner for a while in this deck from Heroes of Skyrim, and that's none other than Shieldbreaker. So this item is going to be adding stats the same as Steel Scimitar, but allowing you to sort of replicate that Earthbone Spinner effect by bypassing guards and pushing for extra damage at the exact same time. So kind of a perfect card for this deck, just not quite as high utility as Earthbone Spinner because Earthbone can silence things that don't have guard, but for the purposes of an aggro deck, Shieldbreaker is going to be doing what we want it to do most of the time. Garnag and Reeve have to leave us next. Unfortunately, there aren't really cards that duplicate either of these effects too well. So what I'm going to be doing with those 2 slots is putting 2 copies of Camlorn Sentinel in. Now, this card is obviously more defensive than we'd like a prophecy to be, ideally, but you still see a lot of versions play just because it increases the prophecy density by that little bit. We did wind up cutting a bit of prophecies with the Protector of the Innocent, and this card can kind of fill that role as a defensive prophecy that's really going to help you more than the average prophecy against another aggressive deck because of its high health. So then we have to remove 6 more cards to fully complete the Budget-ify cycle, and those are the 3 Sentinel Battle Maces and 3 Underworld Vigilantes. So let's start with the Battle Maces. I think I put in a different 4-cost item over the Battle Maces last time in the Budget-ify video for this deck, but since we already included 3 copies of Shieldbreaker, I don't really want to overload on items, especially considering the card I'll talk about in a minute, but for the sake of the Battle Maces, what I will be doing is re-including the 3 copies of Royal Sage, You still see this card in a lot of versions of Aggro Battlemage. Since we're ahead on life more often than not, the card's going to have a ton of value. Just another really swingy card to play from your hand that really capitalizes on our aggression. And the Vigilantes are a bit harder to replace. Fortunately, since Heroes of Skyrim came out, we can sort of duplicate them a bit because we got another 5-cost charge without a little bit of the utility, but we will just include 3 copies of Battlefield Scrounger. I think it's nice to have one charge creature in the deck, because if our opponent starts having removal for everything we play, it's nice to continue that damage from hand with cards like the Charge, the Lightning Bolts, and the Camelorn Heroes, so this should just maybe give us that extra bit of reach, not quite as much as the Vigilante, so I do recommend playing the Vigilante over these if you have them. If you have access to the Fall of the Dark Brotherhood, obviously it's a great expansion, I recommend getting your hands on it, but maybe we can even get some value from the Slay effect if we have to use this to attack over a guard too. So that's it for the deck. Looks completely budgetified to me, still looks incredibly potent, so let's take it to a couple games in casual and see if we can't take some wins. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my stream in the description down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Here's some Aggro Budget-ify Battlemage in casual. So Shrieking Harpy's not the ideal 2-drop for us. Let's just full ship this hand and try to get something a bit more aggressive. And we got it.
Luck to your house.
You know, let's start using this sharpshooter for some damage. Definitely want to be the aggressor against Sorcerer, and pretty much every deck in the game. That is a bummer, but we do have the cast out. It's not unlikely that he replays it, but then we'll have Royal Sage, and that could give one of our other guys lethal or the Sage itself charge. I think we go for the Sage, but I think I'll be playing it in the right. That could be okay as well, but I think I'm just going to go for the Sage, get some board presence in the right. And maybe we do get lethal in the Sharpshooter, and that would be nice, but I'm not going to bank on it by putting Sage in the left. Charge on the Sage, nice, that's exactly where we want to be. And, you know, let's deal a little bit of damage to this, I think. Or make him do it. Yeah, let's make him do it, that's fine. Make him waste that attack there. Or we could even Shield Breaker it next turn if we really wanted. Charge was brutal.
I will be your shell and keep you safe.
The longer the odds, the sweeter the victory.
Alright, Shield Breaker it is, I think. The thing we have to do with it is cast out, and that doesn't really seem worth it. Even if I cast out, I want to use Shield Breaker for the damage, just to maximize my Magicka. I guess we just save the cast out. So you got like a prophecy there or something. I don't really want to cast that out because I could get guard again. Might be tempted to attack because he has the Dark Guardian to draw when we get prophecies, but I don't really care about him drawing cards. So I'd be more than happy to see some face attacks from him here.
Face my blade.
Since we don't have anything to do with the Mystic Dragon, I think I'm going to save it and try to get more stats on the board with the Fate Weaver.
To join the circle.
We could maybe Mystic Dragon cast out next turn.
The longer the odds, the sweeter the victory.
Cast out's going to deal with that very well. think I'll just go ahead and play the dragon after that, though. We could get the Circle Initiate down now. I guess it's fine. We might not be able to proc the effect ever again.
I am ready to join the circle. My destiny is fulfilled.
Alright, so he's at 5, and we have 4 already in our hand, which means Sharpshooter, Scout, Camlorn, Hero, etc. all kill our opponent, even if he can find a way to deal with all of these. And of course, if we had Encano in the deck, it would also kill our opponent here.
I bow to your vision.
Now this hand seems totally reasonable to me, so let's just keep it all. We have the Ring of Magicka, we can ring into Greystone Ravager or Wardcrafter. Probably the Ravager, I think, just to try to push some extra damage early. I'm still okay with that plan.
This should be good.
And we'll see if we need a ward or just play the hero next turn.
They will not get past me.
Definitely okay with him trying to out-aggro me. But I think I'll play the Wardcrafter in the right, still warding up the Greystone Ravager. I think that trade is fine, we can just keep this durable.
I am ready to join the circle.
Or the rift.
Sentinel's not a bad draw. I'd say, yeah, let's take a trade. Go face here and use the Sentinel defensively. Man, we could actually have even Sharpshooter our own face here. That's really... probably not something I want to do to waste the ring on. We might do it next turn, though. It might put more stats on the board with a Prophecy creature than the damage I'd be dealing to his face would make up for.
Let nothing through.
Go Hero and Sharpshooter without using the ring. It is something you can do in a last-ditch effort, so I might just do it to illustrate that point. If we do it, though, we might have to do it first in case we get our own more cool Gatekeeper, which can then buff that. So yeah, let's do it. Make the sweet play. Fine.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Their defenses will crumble. We stand united.
There's the more cool, so we have 9 on board, plus 4 from hand, so 13 damage. I'd say we just send it all to our opponent's face. We could play this guard over there. Attack and see if anything happens. Okay.
Close ranks. Let nothing through.
Do not test me, Dave. I used to be an adventurer like you.
And again, even if he had any chance of dealing a lot of damage this turn, we have 4 runes that he has to go through in a very prophecy-dense deck. Which just gives you that safety against other aggressive decks. It's best to not rely on them, but in a pinch you probably can. Or at least rely on getting something. Stats. Free stats to kill your opponent with. Not always something that'll interact with their aggressive push.
Close ranks. Let nothing through.
Got some thunder outside. Man.
The silent guard with you.
My arrows shall fly true.
If he had magic left, we could just do that to face and inflict a lit to kill him.
You are the victor.
But I'm pretty sure there's nothing he could have done there. It's a good aggro deck, guys.